please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. We're counting down to pre-open. It looks like today we'll have a weak start, and I'm not saying that because the SGX Nifty is down 45 points. That over the last 2 or 3 days hasn't given you the perfect indication. But if you take a look at the global markets in general today, there's a bit of a problem with emerging markets. Hong Kong market in particular, if you see that market would come up for you, that's down 500 points, 1.7% to be precise. Anish Damania is still with us. Anish, the other interesting bit yesterday was this dichotomy that you had between Ashok Leyland and Tata Motors' CV sales. Your thoughts on how to approach this space now?
So we are very clear that play the Indian CV cycle only through Ashok Leyland. We are fairly gung-ho on the Indian CV cycle, and we feel that there is a lot more steam left still. And with the kind of economy coming back on a high growth path, we feel that commercial vehicles will not be left behind in this. We feel, our analysis of peak to peak, cycles. When we look at peak to peak, we always see a sharp improvement from one peak to another. But we are not at that kind of a level so far. So we feel that CV cycle has some more strength and some more legs to go, and the only way to play the Indian CV cycle will be through Ashok Leyland.
Okay, actually I wanted to, Anish, also ask you.
We have a very...
Sorry, go ahead.
So we had just come out with a note where we had upgraded the stock target price by about 30-odd%, from about 135 to about 180 levels. And I think over the next 1 year, this is one story where we would like to stay with it. It is quite possible that there could be some weakness for a couple of months or so, but I think it will eventually pick up.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about another part of the auto sector, the two-wheelers. Not that they have returned much money over the past 1 year, Hero Moto and Bajaj, but are the recent trends in favor of Bajaj and against Hero, you think?
I wouldn't say that, but what I would say that two-wheeler sector in general probably has not seen that kind of robustness over the last few years. But we will start to see that as more and more rural income comes into play, as the government goes into election mode, and clearly they have realized that it is a rural side which they need to work on. And all indications, right from the budget to the government talk, is to uplift the rural side of the story. So if that is the case, then Hero MotoCorp has a larger delta to the rural presence than Bajaj Auto. Bajaj Auto has a different thing coming from the export market, where the rupee depreciation is expected to help them. But I would say that in the domestic market, I would still play my bets on Hero MotoCorp. We have seen about a 25% increase in sales, and the management's commentary suggests that a double-digit growth, a little higher double-digit growth is more likely in this year. So given that, we see that the earnings trajectory for Hero MotoCorp is likely to be significantly better in FY19 and FY20.
Okay, in fact, yes, at the conference call, they did speak about margin pressures, but they also spoke about double-digit volume growth for the sector and for themselves. But just counting down to the pre-opening rates, Anish, the other pocket that has done exceptionally well is IT over the last, say, many months. But we've seen some of these companies like HCL Tech, etc., report guidance that was below street estimates. How do you rank these companies now? What would be your topmost pick here, and what would you avoid?
So I would definitely say that IT sector is probably on a roll, given the fact that currency is in their favor and the US growth is in their favor. So obviously, while the stocks have outperformed by a great margin, I think at the margin they will continue to outperform now, given that the trajectory itself is good. But we would like to play the IT story through two of the large names, which is Infosys and TCS. So Infosys is our top pick purely on account of valuations. There's a significant catch-up to do with respect to Infosys versus TCS, and I think blocks are in place for that kind of playing itself out over the next 1 year. So that is one part. Second part, we have some of the mid caps which should do well in the IT segment. So I think IT story clearly is about, for us, it's about two stocks, which is TCS and Infosys.
Okay, I just wanted to inform you that InterGlobe is starting with a 5% cut. The markets itself are all over the place. The Nifty started in the red, now in the green. So I just think it'll have to settle down a bit before we start reading anything. Rupee is flat, in fact, a tad stronger. So the rupee strength, the dollar strength is not impacting at the moment. If the rupee is as flat as this, there should be no reason why you should look for any further impact of the Fed. After all, these macros impact the rupee first. But it's as flat can get, so the Fed can be ignored for the moment as far as equity markets are concerned. In fact, the rupee has strengthened a goodish bit now, 6 pice stronger. On the stock markets, I'm still waiting for the markets to settle in one direction. Now it's a little bit of green, with the Nifty rising about 0.2% at this juncture. Leading it up is Sun Pharma, but Biocon is the one that's taking the knock, and expectedly so.
Yes, and in the broader market, just a couple of these numbers. TBZ had a very good set of numbers this time around. So that stock in pre-opening, the first tick that I saw was up almost about 3-odd%. So keep an eye out on that. And on the downside, names like NFL under pressure. But Anish, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your views on individual stocks. You have a good day. We'll touch base with you once again. Let's talk a little more about IndiGo. But before that, Manisha Gupta is with us. She'll tell us what's happening in the commodity space this morning. Hi, Manisha. What's up there?
Well, thank you for that, Sonia. Well, one of the major cues that would come in from the global markets really is the trade talks which have begun between the US Secretary and the Vice Chinese Premier as well. So that is something that all asset classes would keep an eye on. Well, the expectation is that these talks will lead to further talks, and that is what the markets are okay with. But if these talks break down and there is something that negative comes out from this one today, then you will see pressure come in for the currencies and many of those commodities as well. And that's not all. Well, the Iran nuclear accord is another thing, and not all is well with the other countries who the US is trading with. So there have been statements from Brazil and European Union as well that the exemptions do not look so good, and the trade talks with US can't be on the back of threats from the US as well. So there is a bit of a uncertainty, a non-accord that we are seeing when it goes to trade talks with US in sense of many of these countries. Well, on the metals prices space, we have seen the Shanghai gain up on the higher side. So copper and aluminum there are trading in the positive, but the LME prices are trading slightly in the negative. So there is clearly no one side or direction that various time zones are taking when it comes to the metal space. But crude oil prices have started the day slightly on the weaker side. You have seen the US production and the weekly inventories climb up yet again, and that's pulled the prices down. And 0.25% to 0.5% of a downside is what we are seeing in both the crude varieties right now.
Okay, I don't think too many people in the Indian markets are going to worry about that, Manisha. A few more pice cheaper crude is always an advantage. Thank you very much indeed for joining us with the overnight cues from the currency and commodity space. Well, with that, let's shift focus to a stock that today is starting with a 5% downtick. That's InterGlobe Aviation. That's because it has reported a weak quarter. Rahul Bhatia, the co-founder and interim CEO of IndiGo, addressed the issue and specifically of their neo engines, and said that they are working to resolve the matter. Remember, it was those engines which led to grounding of a lot of their flights and therefore lower revenues in the quarter gone by. Rahul Bhatia added that they are bringing new members on the board to help execute the company's long-term plans. Listen to what he said in the conference call, and we have an expert joining us.
There are certain issues with the neo engines. Also, as we have discussed previously, these issues will take some time to get resolved, and we continue to work with Pratt & Whitney and Airbus to ensure that we have sufficient spare engines available. During the quarter, a new issue cropped up where a subpopulation of A320neos powered by Pratt & Whitney engines with engine serial number 450 and beyond. This led to the grounding of some of these aircraft by the Indian DGCA. As we received new engines from Pratt & Whitney, we have replaced all the affected engines, and these planes are now back in service. We have been continuously putting in place the building blocks for our future plans. A key element of this is to build a talent pool with deep functional expertise that will be able to successfully execute on our long-term plan. As part of this effort, I'm delighted that we have new leaders joining the team.
All right. Well, what they did not tell us was the amount of compensation they will receive from Pratt & Whitney. And that's the most important because, you know, that's what's been really putting pressure as far as the company is concerned. But Mayur Milak of India Nivesh Securities joins in. Mayur, hi, good morning. This is the worst time for InterGlobe, right? We started off with safety concerns, legal battles, Aditya Ghosh's resignation, and now these numbers. You think investors should find an opportunity in this adversity, or would you stay away from the stock?
I think so. We've come out with a note. We've come out with a reduced call on the stock. I think too much of uncertainties, and I think so. There are other stocks to really play the sector. So I think I'll probably want to play it through SpiceJet and Jet till I really get some clarity on really what is happening at IndiGo.
Okay. What are your take on the numbers in particular? Do you think margins will worsen? Are you worried that the PLF will not pick up, the seat load factor will not pick up? What exactly are your worries with the numbers?
So I wouldn't really say that they will further collapse from here. But I think, so IndiGo is really at a premium compared to its peers. And there was a reason for that. And now if I don't really have comfort on the growth factor, I'm not too sure whether, the investors would be comfortable with the premiumization that has really happened to the stock.
Okay. Mayur, good morning. But, some of these issues are impacting other airlines as well. I mean, Jet has not covered itself in glory for the last 2 or 3 quarters. So, you get a sense that perhaps even that one would suffer from the highs. That's also fallen quite a bit.
Sure, I think so. No, if a damage happens to a market leader, especially on the yield side, revenue side, it is bound to really impact the other guys as well. But my sense is that we know that IndiGo was functioning pretty efficiently, and there are not too many levers to really cover this cost. Whereas for the other guys, there are a lot of inefficiencies that still can cover up for the kind of rise in crude that has happened. So for this year, if you're seeing, new aircrafts really coming into SpiceJet, you will see that their maintenance cost will come off. They will have some benefit of the negotiation that has happened, which will impact their rental cost. So I think all of those levers will actually help them save the impact of crude compared to IndiGo.
So what would you like to see from the management, see or hear from the management, which will make you change your view? Will it be Gregory Taylor coming on board as CEO? Will it be a change in their strategy? Because they were looking to do that, right? From a lease model, they were looking to own more planes. What would you like to see for you to change your call?
So, to start with, I think some disclosures that are needed. I think the con call does happen every quarter, but a lot of questions really go unanswered, and then there is a lot of uncertainty. So you really don't know till it actually impacts. So while it was asked that how are the yields really faring, I think there's no harm really saying April is already gone by. They could have hinted that is there some improvement in yields. So as a market leader, if IndiGo tells you that yields are under pressure, I fail to understand one thing, that they are the market leader on metro routes, right? I mean, you can't tell me that a SpiceJet or a Jet will come and dent you on yields on those routes. And I think a question was specifically asked where, that are you facing pressure on yields in the metro or the non-metro? And they said it is across. I'm not too sure, whether they're really disclosing that real impact. And that is why, to get that comfort as an analyst is very difficult at this price point.
Okay. Generally, I wanted to ask you, until now, airlines have behaved like one of the consumer discretionaries. You could throw any higher ATF price or fare hikes at them, and they performed very well. Has the tipping point come that if ATF prices are hiked any further or airfares are hiked the way it has been done now, it will start to tell on revenues?
So, at this point, we are anticipating a 15% demand volume growth.
Okay.
I think the growth from non-metros are much higher, which will support the overall growth. But yes, India has always been a price-conscious market. You really cannot pass on that entire hike immediately. So, in the near term, we will see some pressure on margins. I think the best to really look at is how they, come up with the improvement in yields and save on to the other costs, which are not fuel costs.
All right, Mayur. Thanks a lot for your time today. That's the view from Mayur Milak. Of course, preferred Jet Airways or SpiceJet over IndiGo currently. Pre-open has settled, and once again, 2 points higher on the Nifty compared to what the SGX Nifty was indicating. Now, keep in mind, of course, there's a premium angle as well, because SGX Nifty tracks the futures. Ashwini, thoughts on if there is a first trade on the index, and what about your 9-10 call?
See, it's a flat open, but yesterday was a narrow range. So whichever way the range starts to get broken, that is the way you take trades. On individual, I think ITC should continue its up move. That's a buy with a stop of 283, target of 297.
Okay. Well, some stocks like Nalco are also starting on the front foot. Sudarshan, we've not discussed metals in a while. Is there anything in the metal space, Nalco in particular?
No, Nalco is not a buying opportunity. I don't think any of the metals are buying opportunities here. The opportunities are elsewhere in consumer, say maybe after a dip, Hind Unilever or even Reliance, which had a stable day yesterday.
Okay.
Avoid metals completely.
Any of the airline stocks, Sudarshan?
Well, I like IndiGo in spite of all the things we are hearing on the channel.
Okay. You like the flight or you like the chart?
No, I like the chart, not the airline, not the travel.
All right.
The charts are very good. Just wait for the prices to stabilize and then buy it.
Okay, big difference between technicals and fundamentals then. Ashwini, what would you do with some of these private sector banks, Kotak, IndusInd, Yes Bank? Which tops your list now to trade?
See, a very clear demarcation has happened between, say, Kotak, HDFC, and maybe Axis and the rest. So these three guys continue to move up, maybe include an IndusInd, but the others are negative. The PSU banks got slammed. I think corporate banks like SBI, ICICI will continue to go down in market cap, and I think Kotak will pick up, Kotak, Yes Bank, etc. will take up that slack. So that sort of trading strategy should work.
Okay, Balrampur Chini could open at fresh 52-week low. Ashwini, that was one of your sell calls, but positionally, what are the targets here? Yesterday, on good news, we saw that big sell-off.
Well, now there's going to be bad news for a while. So I think 38.40, that is generally the place it tends to find support. It should be headed there.
Okay, yeah, I mean, take your point so completely on that one. Once the bad news starts for sugar stocks, it goes on for a couple of years before the sugar cycle turns and the sugar cane cycle turns. Is Rajat also with us? Okay, not yet. Well, Sudarshan, I wanted to ask you about Ashok Leyland. There was a little bit of a surprise in the numbers, the auto sales numbers for April. But what is the stock telling you?
Well, it's telling us that I think it's now coming to a point where it will consolidate for many weeks and months. So while it is a buying opportunity, there is no rush. We can buy after 6 months also.
Okay. So the best perhaps has just happened for Ashok Leyland. So, Ashwini, any of the mid-cap IT stocks, we will eventually get Hexaware numbers later today, and tomorrow we will get NIIT Technologies numbers. Any of these stocks ahead of the numbers you would want to play?
See, I think all three, Mindtree, NIIT Tech, Tata Elxsi, even Hexaware, these guys are the ones where the market will bank on because they have the highest amount of relative strength. So afternoon, maybe some of these stocks will start to come back.
Okay, well, in pre-opening, auto stocks, Bajaj Auto, Eicher Motors are also topping the chart, so both are up. Quick comment, Sudarshan, on the two-wheeler names, what would you trade, what would you avoid?
No, Bajaj Auto is a buying opportunity. In a choppy market, unless the markets don't fall, it should outperform, and even today on a dip, it's a buy.
Okay, actually it is starting as the best performing stock in the Nifty for the moment, up about up almost 1%. Anything else in terms of stocks?
Well, the Class 8 truck sales have come out. So it's a growth of 48% year on year, but actually month on month it's a big fall. Last month they saw 46,900. This time it's fallen to 34,800. So let's see how stocks like Bharat Forge, Ramkrishna Forging react.